Hoo boo 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 boo. Hi everyone, Hoothany Boo Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Trippie Redd album, Life's a Trip. This is the debut full-length commercial album from rapper and singer Trippie Redd, who I last talked about in 2017 off of his A Love Letter to You 2 mixtape. Stylistically, he shared a lot in common with all of these part rapper, part singers, mostly coming out of the SoundCloud scene. He drew a lot of comparisons to artists like Lil Uzi Vert, but I admired him for his general lack of auto-tune on his vocals and presenting his voice in a very naked and a raw form. On top of that, singing in a kind of aggressive and strained way certainly set him apart from some of his peers too. He typically sings in this very high and nasally tone, which especially on this new album over here is a little reminiscent of that of like an emo band in the 2000s, which isn't as bad as you might think it is, though it does occasionally get kind of hideous and unbearable, which is pretty much my issue with Trippie Redd up until this point in a nutshell. It's not that he doesn't have great ideas or that there's not potential here, but he's just a little inconsistent. A Love Letter to You 2 was kind of a mess, but there was still enough interesting ideas there to leave me feeling like if only this dude's raw talent could be groomed a little bit and some of the ideas he's presenting sort of fleshed out. And in some respects, I think Life is a Trip is an admirable attempt at teasing the potential out of Trippie Redd, but it's still not without its major flaws. For one, the entire album opens up with the track Together. While this track is not as long and as excruciating as the Together / Bigger Than Satan music video single that Trippie Redd dropped a little while ago, it's still an awful way to start your record. I kind of admire the lonely, twinkling guitars in the mix, and some of the vocal melodies Trippie brings to the table, but the execution leaves a lot to be desired, as his singing on this track is absolutely hideous, with a lot of very strained, raspy, just horrendous yelling. Ah! Again, I do like Trippie's uniquely raw voice, but sometimes it just feels like he's totally oblivious as to how to make that work in his favor. And if only he could, because on the closing track here, he pulls together a similar vocal and instrumental vibe to the opener, but it's nowhere near as obnoxious, as off-key, as just generally awful. Thankfully, the first track does get some of the worst singing on the entire album out of the way early, though there is another helping of it on the hook of the song Bang. I prefer the much smoother Take a Walk, which follows immediately after the opening track, which has a very watery electric piano, some laid-back beats, a deep atmosphere. Overall, the track is just some very euphoric and moody trap, with a pretty sticky vocal melody and a series of lyrics that read as paranoid, frustrated, suicidal, introspective, sometimes even funny, as that chicken noodle boneless line is pretty sharp, and slightly a meme. My major issue with the song is that there's not a whole lot of structure to it. It's criminally short, even if, again, I do enjoy the tune, I do enjoy the weird emo-esque vocal inflections that Trippie brings to the table, which continue to set him apart from a lot of his peers. And even though going into this EP, my lyrical expectations for Trippie weren't exactly high, that didn't make swallowing the song Wish any easier. Another track that aesthetically I like a lot. Vocal melody is pretty cool, the beat is very glamorous and glitzy and laid back, the drums have almost a boom-bap-ish tone to them. But these lyrics, baby what you wishin' for, maybe you should wish it more, maybe the world is yours, maybe when it rains it pours. I don't know how to wish anymore. I don't know how to wish anymore. I guess lyrics like this might come with the emo territory that so obviously influences Trippie, but God is it sappy. Miraculously though, Trippie can actually pull off a very smart, entertaining, and lyrical track if he wants to, which he does on the song Missing My Idols. Taking into account the sad, gorgeous vocal sample laced through the beat, the simplicity of the rhythm, and Trippie's flow on this track, the song reminds me of like a little B cut, of course one of his more sad and introspective tracks that could have been uploaded to YouTube 5 years ago. I also found the track Oomp's Revenge to feel similarly based. Trippie also goes toe-to-toe with Young Thug on the track Forever Ever, where he pulls off the whole auto-croon thing over a gritty, thumping beat pretty well. Thugger's performance on the track is great too, but it's just one of those moments on this album where I think some better structuring or a stronger change on the hook would have done wonders for this track's memorability, could have given it some more impact, which is an issue that plagues quite a few songs on this album, leading moments like Bird Shit to feel more tedious than I think they needed to. But the song How You Feel is actually a fantastic moment on the album, with Redd singing over these very slinky layers of anthemic guitars. It's legit beautiful, and it sounds like he's just floating on this bed of guitars, this wonderful heavenly cloud of guitars. Lyrically, he even has this frank but poetic moment where he says, "I'm trying to pour my heart out, how the fuck I'm supposed to sound, I guess I'm trying to know how you feel." The song reads like he's singing about someone he's in love with and he's trying to figure out how that person feels. But some of the lyrics, some of the similes on this track can be kind of questionable, like when he likens the situation to cookies and a Girl Scout. But again, I think his attempt here at just going full guitar ballad goes over very well and sounds better than a lot of the trap cuts on this record. The 2017 single Dark Knight Dummo featuring Travis Scott also lands on this album. It was a fantastic banger when it originally came out, and it pretty much still is in the context of the record. I love the heavy and rough synth bass all over this track, the sinister pipe organ licks, the skittering trap beat, the dense layers of vocals on this thing. This is very much a vibe and an instrumental that you want Travis Scott on. The vibe of the track is really psychedelic, the hook hits hard, and the blend of rapping and singing from both Redd and Travis are electrifying. Past this moment, though, is the last leg of the album, which is pretty mild, unfortunately. Tracks that feature some pretty generic lyrical and instrumental ideas that aren't fleshed out that deeply, cuts that are essentially just motifs or vibes or rough concepts masquerading as songs. Tracks like Shake It Up and Gore, and one that I may not even be pronouncing correctly, Uka Uka. I will continue to give it to Trippie that he has more personality and a larger voice than a lot of his competition, but he's still seriously lacking on the consistency front, on the lyrical front, on the structural front. Occasionally on this album, Trippie does hit a home run, and the best parts of this record do sound like he has matured a bit artistically, but overall he's just as inconsistent on song quality as he was last year. Which is sad, once again, because Trippie fails for another time to realize his full potential. I'm feeling a light to decent 5 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Over here next to my head is another review that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Trippie Redd, forever.